Folks, welcome back into the 7 Financial Blind Spots. Steve, this is a big one. It's one that people really don't see many times. It's a silent killer, it's been called a lot of times in portfolios. Inflation.
Inflation is absolutely the silent killer. I'm kind of an inflation nerd. I mean, so this is a topic I'm very passionate about.
Okay.
Because most financial plans will account for inflation at 1 or 2%. And because they say, oh, well, the last 20 years, inflation has been really low. However, if you look historically since World War II, inflation has averaged 3.42%. And so whenever you have a period of time where something is much, much lower than its long-term historical average, there's a period where it reverts back to its long-term historical average.
Which that way it has to be higher than it was even historically. So.
And then you factor in that we've just pumped in a bunch of money into the money supply during this pandemic.
Yes.
It's going to lead to higher inflation. So if you look at inflation, the last time we had a 20-year period where inflation was this low was between 1948 and 1968, and that was followed by the 70s.
We know what happened in the 70s.
Yeah, and so I'm not saying we're going to have 7.5% inflation like we had then, but it's very reasonable.
You never know, right?
We would have a period of higher inflation.
So it's important to at least identify that and set up ways to combat the potential higher inflation in the future.
Right. So my plans always start off with a baseline of 3.42% inflation. And the benefit of having a plan where you're starting with a higher baseline is that it's easier to adjust if that inflation doesn't happen than if you plan at 1% and then the inflation, and you have to adjust in the other direction.
Rather have you have leftover money if you do the right thing instead of shortage money.
Exactly.
Inflation basically just things are more expensive. That's what it means. I mean, and folks, if you don't realize that inflation is out there, just think about this in your head. Think about what you paid for your first house, and now think about what you paid for your last car. Many people just realize they paid more for their last car than their first house. Crazy, isn't it?
We have a tiny car, a Honda Fit.
Yeah.
It costs more than what my parents paid for their house in 1969.
Well, I like the way that you are an inflation geek, because that's going to help all your clients out, because you're not going to ever be left with a shortfall. And that's why we build inflation protection into plans, is because you want people to have more money, not less money.
No, absolutely. And what it shows you is what your purchasing power is going to be in retirement and how sustainable that is.
Yes, and that's important. Folks, if you want to make sure you have a total plan, and a total plan does account for inflation, give Steve and his team a call right now and they can help you. 800-597-4579.